Hi, everyone. We're going to get started with our next booth talk. So my name is Julie Shen, and I am a principal in our technology, media, and telecom practice here at Deloitte. I'm also the lead alliance partner for Intel. So I own all of the commercial solutions that we partner with Intel on and are built on Intel technology. And today we're going to talk about telco and edge, what's next, and why it's important. So we're on day 2 of Mobile World Congress, and as I've been walking around the booth floor, it really struck me how much telco is going through a resurgence right now. There's a lot of edge compute happening and intelligence at the edge, and that's in fact the theme for this year's Mobile World Congress, right? The IQ era. But to enable all of that intelligence, obviously the telcos are at the center of this. So I like to call 2026 the year of the telco main character energy, right? That they're manifesting main character energy. So to start off, I would love our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us your name and your role, and what you're observing about this dynamic. WY, we'll start with you.
All right. Hey, Wei-Yang here, WY. I run the edge computing ecosystem for Intel Edge Computing Business Group. Essentially, it's the edge computing, edge AI, and physical AI. So I've been in MWC for past 10 years-ish, and you see a very big difference a couple years once, right? A couple years will look the same, couple years will look different. I think the biggest things that we see different from this year is 5G is already happened, right? It's everywhere. Edge computing is super important to drive 5G services. And you can't run away not getting into two conversations. One is what's your agentic AI strategy? And of course, it ends by what's your physical AI strategy, right? So kind of see telco is trying to get up to the pace with how the industry is evolving, and telco still play a very big role, right, to provide the foundational networks to connect everything. Yep.
Good morning. My name is Sergey Batalin. I'm principal with Deloitte, part of our AI engineering business, and my specific focus is infrastructure-led business transformation. And as you can imagine, Edge gives us another great tool to drive this transformation. So Julie, to your question, I think what's interesting about the edge computing is that we're transitioning from the POC state, where people are trying to prove that edge could work, into more of the production deployments, where edge is in production and specific production workloads could be executed at edge with the significant business impact. And I think that's really exciting for me. I think another interesting development is that the ecosystem of partners for edge is growing dramatically. And now telcos have an opportunity to leverage both their own assets and capabilities of the whole ecosystem to make edge happen. So completely committed to your 2026 call, and let's make it happen.
Hi, everybody. Rob Casagran. I'm a principal in Deloitte's Telecommunications, Media, and Entertainment practice based in New York. I'm very excited to be here and have this conversation. My focus is business transformation as well, that's enabled by next generation and advanced technologies, especially communications and connectivity. So when you say resurgence, I've worked in the industry for 20 years. It's glad to know I'm back, but no, just, but the reality is over the last few years coming to Mobile World, as well as talking to clients with the advent of 5G, private 5G, neutral host networks, we've always been talking about the role that cognitivity plays in the business transformation and how it's enabling it and driving it, and to see it continue to come into fruition and be so much more part of the dialogue this year is great to see.
Awesome. So for the first question, Rob, I'm actually going to start off with you. You worked in telco for many years, right? And you work with a lot of our telco clients. I'm really curious to hear from you, how are the telcos perceiving this moment right now?
So, we take sort of a macro view of the telecommunications industry, right? We've all heard, it's uber competitive, right? Very saturated, cost conscious, yet capital intensive. And telcos are trying to figure out how do they really create a differentiated value proposition to their customers, whether it be consumers, enterprise, small business. So how do you do that, right? You do it with your network, you do it with your products and services, and solutions that you provide. You do it with the customer experience and the services that you actually provide, to those customers. And, we're sort of at this inflection point now, right? Especially as it relates to AI and how that's going to help change that differentiated value prop. And I think telecommunication companies are looking at it in a couple different ways. One is, what is their role in the broader AI ecosystem? Everybody thinks about telcos as connectivity. They're bringing bandwidth, they're bringing low latency, but they also have distributed networks. You could add compute to that. So they're part of that ecosystem that's driving the AI revolution and enabling business transformation of not just themselves, but all other industries and clients. The second is, where does the AI start to get embedded in their own products and services? And then even more so now, where AI is trying to, the meat in the road, the rise in the meat, is, in their own operation, right? Because if you want to create differentiated customer experiences, AI is so important, from whether you're calling about a bill or whether you have an issue at your house that requires, a truck roll. So, that point in the world of AI, those three dimensions, and connectivity is part of every single one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to embrace that main character energy, the telcos also have some transformation and
Sure.
growth to do, right? So, Sergey, I'm going to come to you next. You had mentioned that you've noticed a lot of solutions going from POCs to full-on deployments, which is really exciting. I'm curious to hear from you, what are the three biggest solutions that you see gaining traction in serving telcos today as they, meet this demand and distributed compute and AI on the edge?
So I would say the most interesting developments in the area of edge right now is probably threefold. So one, there's an opportunity to build federated edge computing capability, which means ability to process workloads on the device, on the edge, and in the cloud. So no longer telco has to pick and choose where to invest in order to drive the specific solutions to their clients. They could utilize all of their network. In fact, I would argue that their field network is one of the underappreciated assets that telco providers have. It gives them a unique opportunity to push the innovation all the way to the edge of their network, and also introduce their new customers to the network solution. So in that context, we see a lot of movements in some specific industry verticals. So, for example, telco solution for oil and gas appears to be resonating with a number of our clients, and we partner with our large ecosystem partners, both on silicon, on hardware, and on telecommunications to drive it. We see significant interest to the sports and entertainment area, and we are directly involved in Olympic Games. We are helping our telco partners to extend their brand and capabilities into the sports, and that's another great area for edge computing capabilities, because it provides experience right there. It gives you intelligence that you can act on in the moment, and it allows you to advance what type of services telco could offer. And then the third area, which is very interesting, it's across the world. Given this is a global forum, we see a lot of governments interested about the ability to support their constituencies, both consumers and enterprises, using government's points of presence, and that allows them to make that more viable. So across all these dimensions, as I mentioned, the consumer business, the enterprise business, and government present very unique opportunities for telcos to be productive in that space.
Very cool. WY, coming to you next. I'm really curious from your perspective, right? Intel is a technology that powers a lot of the things that, makes all of this possible, all the solutions that Sergey mentioned. What breakthroughs in the technology have we seen in the past 6 to 12 months that really make this possible now, more so than ever before?
Yeah, hey, thank you for the questions. So if we think about past 12 months, the few key observations kind of pretty interesting, right? One, as the training at the cloud moving as fast as it could, but the differentiation is getting less right now among the company. So we see a lot of the shift towards the edge computing. And when we talk about edge computing, essentially the foundation is compute. A lot of times people forget about why we call it edge compute. Edge compute, the foundation is compute. And to that end, past 12 months, we see quite a lot of the shift a demand coming back asking for a better compute, right, within the edge location. And edge AI will come in with a very specific features or function they require to fulfill the edge use cases. So that's the shift that we see, number one. And some of the customers even like telling us that, hey, we might over provision a GPU at the cloud right now, where to move some back on premise, right? So to that end, we bring together the integrated GPU and NPU all come together, and thanks to the AI PC new category innovation. So now essentially we can bring GPU, NPU, CPU, all three engine come together under the roof, one silicon, and you have a range of 200 TOPS, on-prem performance capability to support most of the use cases required for edge computing, right? Inferencing and so on. And if you think about that, the models is getting smaller, right? And thanks to all the investment in the cloud, now model getting more mature, getting more customized, getting much more smaller. And pretty much you see like between 7 billion and 15 billion parameters is a sweet spot. It land on the system nicely within the right price point, within the right power, and it hit the right performance, right? And then the other part of it is software, right? We see the developers getting much more savvy with open source as well. And developer prefer not locking down with one proprietary top to bottom stack. They will pick and choose the layer that they want. And to that end, we see Hugging Face, PyTorch, and OpenVINO continue to grow in the marketplace, right? And developer will feel comfortable with open source. And open source right now will run on any silicon right now in the industry, right? So it's really providing choice, right, to the industry, right, based on the needs and right size of investment. So those are the biggest breakthrough we see for past 12 months, right? Number one, we see more integrated GPU and NPU come together to meet all the use cases. Number two, we see most of the developers, they are much more savvy right now. They not prefer the integrated stack. They prefer choice. And I think the open source will continue to grow to help the developers. Yeah.
Very cool. And one of the solutions, right, where we see this interplay of price, performance, where that's reaching a tipping point and seeing a lot more adoption is this smart field ops solution that you talked about, Sergey, for our energy and resources clients. And that's actually a solution that we've co-developed with Intel. So Sergey, I would love to hear you describe what that solution is and tell us what outcomes is it really trying to drive for our end clients here.
Yep, happy to. And we're very excited about this product. Essentially, the impetus of the solution was first, how do we make sure that the field force of the future is ready and educated to execute the task that would be required? So essential challenge was ability to push the intelligence to the edge for field technicians to be able to learn new capabilities, new skills, and be productive in the field. However, once we start working together with Intel and some of our other partners, we realize that there is so much more that could be done. As been mentioned earlier, the advancements in language models, both large language models and specialized language models, allow us to do a lot of local inferencing. So moving from education to local inference to just-in-time decision-making allow this product to be much more diverse. And then another interesting development is opportunity to use both CPUs and GPUs concurrently. I really like the point we made earlier. You don't have to optimize for a given silicon. You can take advantage of different silicon options. So in our smart field operation product portfolio, we allow the workloads to be directed at the right type of compute at the right type of place. Imagine technicians in the field producing local inference that has been trained in the cloud, but does it in a moment. Then CPU is a good solution to do just that. It could be CPU embedded into the smart screens. It could be CPU embedded into the device. Then the next federated part of AI processing is in the edge locations, and that's where the smart SME capabilities reside. At that point, you can have a combination of CPUs and GPUs. In fact, we are working with Xeon 6 because of very high compute density for this type of solution. And then ultimately, in the cloud, you have the elastic capacity both for GPUs and CPUs to do training and higher level data processing. So in summary, ability to do the federated AI processing, ability to empower the end users and in this particular case, field technicians to be productive and solve issues on the fly, is significant, especially in the telco context. The price of the truck roll is significant impetus to any business case to enable the workforce. And so inability to avoid an extra truck roll makes this huge differences in business case. So we're very, very excited about this solution, excited about the ability of our partners to bring the solutions to telco service providers, and looking forward to more successful deployments next year.
And if I could add, so, I mean, when you think about service, it's table stakes for the customer experience, right? Something breaks, you need a truck roll. Customers want it done fast. They want it done with the highest level of quality, and they want it done right the first time, which are issues which sometimes come up in this, situation, right? For whether it's, different technician or not understanding the technology or whatever it may be. What this solution allows them to do is, faster speed to closure, right? Also ensuring higher level of quality, and that, you don't need multiple truck rolls or multiple people to solve, that issue. And that's just table stakes from a customer, expectation, that if we can push that down, it lowers the cost to serve, it increases the customer experience, and really has an impact.
Yes, absolutely, Rob. I think I was reading that telcos spend anywhere from 60 to 70% of their operating costs on field maintenance, right, and field operations. So we're really looking forward to this solution making a big impact on our telco clients, especially with regards to customer experience as well, like you mentioned. So WY, I'm going to come to you because in your in the previous question, right, you had talked about how open source is an ecosystem that both of our companies are really tapping into to make these next gen solutions, edge solutions work, right? Can you tell us a little bit about Intel's approach to ecosystem building and why that has been really effective?
Yeah. So I break it down by maybe two parts, right? One is our ecosystem approach, right? And I'll kind of relate that back to the smart field operations use cases, right? So one, Intel been working with even almost at the complete value chain in the ecosystem, right? It started off from the OEM, ODM who delivers a different kind of system PC, right, to meet the needs across the board, right? Edge compute data center and so on. So it's such a cornerstone for us to having a very close business relationship with our builders, who often is the OEM, ODMs, who deliver the right system at the right location, right? It's super important for edge computing because each verticals will tend to have their own device category, form factors that are very much needed for that use cases. And you almost cannot take it and use it broadly for other markets. So we've been good in that sectors to make sure that they have a right selection. On the other hand, we've been embracing open source since day one, right? And open source is super important to give all the developers, empower them to work on the software module that they like to pick up, right? Which we optimize for them, and it gives them flexibility to work on customization as it goes, right? So we embrace open source, and constantly we release a reference software stack under Open Edge initiative, right, to help broader software developers to bring their use cases faster. And then we'll work with SI, right? Work with SI like Deloitte, right? And working with the local SI to deliver the last mile to make sure the end user were able to turn the solution blueprint become reality, right? Because SI is super important, right, to pull through everything that we described, harden it in a solution blueprint, and give selection, right? In the field ops use cases, for example, there could be a telco with global footprint that requires a very scalable solution with a mix of data center and client at the front. It could be a smaller in-country coverage, right, with a smaller data centers with AI PC, tablet, handheld at the front, a gateway at the middles. So the way that we approach together with Deloitte is we first look at the use cases need, we identify the technology required, and then we look at what do we need to build to harden it as a blueprint. And now we look at the ecosystem by layer that we can go and pull together, right, from OEM, from software vendors, right, and from local SI as well, and give option for the telcos depending on the size, how they want to scale it. It serves the needs, yeah. and it deliver the deterministic as well as they want. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a solution building perspective, it seems like ecosystem building, right, is a really important consideration. So I think we're going to run out of time soon, but I would love to wrap up with just one more question. And I want to go back to the theme for Mobile World Congress this year, which is the IQ era, right? Shifting from connectivity to intelligence. All of the solutions that we talked about right now are pretty much happening now, right? The time is now. I would love to hear from the three of you, if we look 3 to 5 years out, right? What are some of the things on the horizon that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah. So as you said, a lot of the technology's on. I think it's just more about reaching scale. A lot of these solutions, self-healing networks, ways that you could use the data from the network to do preventative maintenance, and some of these issues that you're trying to solve, fix some of it. It's just going to continue to grow, and those are going to reach scale and have impact not just within telcos, but within the industries that support and utilize their technology.
Yeah. Now, if I may add to that, I think what's really important in the next 3 to 5 years for the technology innovation we're discussing to become almost fabric of day-to-day life, both for our enterprise customers and consumers. And from telco perspective, they have to almost reinvent what that service truly means and what does it mean to connect with their customers in a whole different way. I think it's a very exciting opportunity. I know there's a number of people who are concerned about challenges of this transformation. My big hope is that instead of focusing on the challenges, we'll find a way to empower the existing organization to do things differently for the common good. And that essentially means in our business, more storytelling, more clear explanation of not the business impact, but ultimate life experience impact on the society at large, and embracing of these technologies. I think we as industry participants have upon us to make it easier for these technologies to find a useful way in day-to-day life. My experience in the past suggests oftentimes we are excited about the technology and we force feed the technology innovation to our customers. I think it's much more important for us to listen to our customers first and then together start solving these solutions. And that's why I'm so excited to be here with Intel, because I think it will take all of us to do it successfully.
Yeah, I'll say 3 things, right? One, 5G is here, right? Foundation right now, today. Edge computing is here to stay. And edge computing going to be evergreen, right? Because edge computing is such a foundation for telco in terms of the way they do business. It's all distributed, right? So edge computing is here to stay with a lot more use cases going to evolve. And because of that, we're going to see agentic AIs will come to reality as well, right? Telco have an opportunity to get into the home for the next evolvement of these services along with agentic. It's all about data security, data sovereignty, that management ability, that telco know how to do it. Telco will learn how to consume agentic and learn how to provide their services. And then along the line, physical AI is coming, right? It's going to be vertical use cases start first, eventually get into the home, right? And this is where telco is excited to start exploring what's a possibility to go and accelerate the physical AI along with agentic AI to get to the home as well as the enterprise, right? So again, edge computing is here to stay. The future is coming, right? And I think agentic and physical AI, we're going to unlock a lot of the opportunity. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. I really enjoyed our booth talk, and until the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Basha.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're here to talk about pricing. It's playing an increasingly important role in the world of telecommunications, realizing value and offering that value to customers. I have the pleasure of being joined by Nida Kia from AT&T. She's their Vice President of Pricing for Consumer. Nida, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So maybe, just to start, would really like to hear your perspectives on, as customers have looked at evaluating wireless plans more recently, how have they started to look at them differently in terms of kind of the value they can expect?
Yeah, customers used to look at their prices as just the rate plan. And now as we start to see more bundling, we're seeing them actually look at the total value of the package. So we see things like bundling streaming, broadband, and so they're looking at the total amount that they are giving their share of wallet.
Okay. And then as you think about, value and value provided to the customers, how has like your pursuit of delivering that value evolved over time over the last few years?
Yeah, wireless has been differentiated. It's getting less and less differentiated, and customers are actually looking at devices, right? That's the reason they used to be locked into a contract, and now that is why they are switching. And so what we've really got to do is focus on differentiating on the wireless.
Awesome. And then as you think about, the perception of the total monthly bill, you talked about this, a little bit here. The bill, obviously there's connectivity, and then we have through streaming services, other value-added services, there's more things appearing on that bill. How have customers started to view kind of these extra line items on the bill? And then what are you as an organization doing to kind of convey the value that they're receiving?
Yeah, I think with the economic conditions right now, customers are looking at the total bill, right? Doesn't matter that you're adding on the device financing, that you're adding on streaming, that you're adding on the broadband. They are looking at the total out of pocket, and they're really starting to look at that. And I think as AT&T, what we differentiate on is the service. And so we've got to find a way to make sure that customers understand they're paying for the connectivity to get to the internet. And that's where we really need to focus.
Very cool. And so, given the maturity of wireless, there's increasing competition in fixed. AT&T is obviously making a big push around convergence. How are you really approaching kind of the converged play and from a pricing lens for consumers?
Yeah, I think AT&T's got a unique position because we own both assets, right? So you've got owner's economics. And so instead of looking at each individual wireless internet, we can actually go look at the household, and we actually have the ability to look at pricing when you look at the lifetime value of those customers in totality, and not just looking at fixed wireless, broadband, and wireless.
Okay. Very cool. So as we look at kind of the value and the insights around customers, one of the things that we're hearing a lot about has really been customers. Some of them are looking for something a customized plan. Some of them are really anchored on simplicity, like keep it simple. Just curious, what is AT&T's view on what they're seeing from customers? Is it customization? Is it simplicity, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, I think a lot of times we confuse simplicity with customization. I think customers want everything to be simple, and buying internet and wireless is anything but simple. I think they want personalization more than they want customization, right? So they want to feel that it's personal to them. And that's where I think we can do that and find a way to simplify it. I think it is completely convoluted today, the way people buy connectivity, and it frustrates our customers, and we know that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, transparency and trust is obviously a hallmark. We've heard about the guarantee from AT&T. And you think about transparency and trust are playing, it seems like, an even more important role in presenting value to the customers. How is that? How is AT&T approaching making sure that transparency and trust are kind of front and center in everything you do and reflected in your pricing strategy?
Yeah. So AT&T is the only one with a guarantee that covers both our wireless and our broadband, right? So we are very clear on that. And I think what you started to see in the industry is as customers become price conscious, you are seeing them start to go back to the days of the contract, right? Yeah. Wireless and broadband don't have contracts today, but they are starting to see these T's and C's with price locks for 3 years, 5 years, and it's riddled with, fees are not included, subcharges, taxes, all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Now, you can't really walk anywhere around here without hearing about, AI and data and insights. It's pretty wild. As you look ahead for, pricing in the future for telecom, what do you think are some of the driving forces, at least in the U.S. market, around kind of where pricing is going to go over the next couple of years?
Yeah. So pricing has got to be, with AI, we are seeing customers start to look at agent. We are not there yet. I think they don't trust it. Yeah. But we are starting to see, right, SEO and the way we used to look at digital back in the day, it's changed completely. And so how you get discovered, we literally go look at ChatGPT and we're like, who is the best provider? Right. And so we're working through how do you get picked up by those as you start to disintermediate with the customer. Yep. And you start to see agents buying from agents. We've got to be very clear on how we interact with the customer and how we continue to manage that relationship as it kind of changes over time as customers get more comfortable with using AI.
Okay. And as customers engage more on digital channels and you have more insights than ever available to customers, how have kind of data and analytics evolved to support the pricing organization?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have first-party data, right? We have it aggregated. We know who our customers are. We know what they want. And so as we talk about price value, it really is about the exchange, right? It used to be price value meant more for cheaper.
Yeah.
And now what customers are telling us is they will pay for something as long as they find value in it.
Okay.
And so we are really trying to get the insights of, okay, here's what matters. And what matters to Jack doesn't matter to Nida, right? We've got to be able to understand that and find populations and really give them the value exchange for the price that they're paying with AT&T.
Okay. And as you think about some of those examples, is there anything that like jumps out that people are kind of asking for as kind of an incremental value that they're excited about?
Yeah, I think they don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the streaming services, you've got the loyalty plays, everybody likes a free cup of coffee, but I really think that the simplicity of, I just want it to work. That is what customers tell us with connectivity. It's so hard to understand how to connect your home, connect your wireless. They don't understand the difference. And so they just really want it to work. And someone that can figure out how to make that unlock, I think really has potential.
Okay. And, you know, kind of given the future of where the industry's headed, are there any things that kind of give you pause or concern, kind of given the rise of AI? Like, you know, how are we going to tackle some of these things?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the AI is only as good as what's out there, right? Yep. So it's aggregating what is there. And even today, when you go look across wireless plans, when you go look across internet plans, it can be really confusing. And I don't think the average customer knows speeds on broadband.
Right.
When you go look at the wireless plans, everyone's throwing everything in the kitchen sink at it. And so I think we've got to be really careful with, you know, as we see dynamic pricing, especially making sure that it is being picked up and that consumers actually have trust in what they're buying.
Okay. Now, you know, you mentioned agentic. If we look at agentic, do you think the agentic will impact kind of customer preferences and buying behaviors for the better or for the worse?
I actually think it might be better over time because I think if they can distill it down to a way that they understand, I think it can make it easier. So
maybe just, you know, quickly in closing, we talked a lot about, you know, where everything's been kind of going, where AT&T is today. Could you maybe share your vision for where AT&T is going to take pricing and value for your customers over the next year or two?
Yeah, I mean, AT&T is known for simplicity, reliability. We are going to continue to lean in. As I said earlier, we want to make sure that the value exchange for the customer is there because we know that when we can get the whole household, they're stickier. They actually find value in what they're getting. And so we will continue to evaluate that exchange with the customer. And our goal is to get every household connected that can with fiber and wireless.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Of course. Thanks.
Afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. So we are going to have a fascinating session today talking fraud, credit risk and collections and what's happening at VMO2. And I'm delighted to be joined by Penny Clark, who's the director of that function. Penny, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your role?
Yep, so I work in Virgin Media O2 as the Director of Fraud, Credit Risk, Collections and Operational Compliance. I've been working there for the last 10 months and over the course of that time been looking at the transformation of technology, in particular in AI.
Amazing. So if we start with fraud, so VMO2 have been at the forefront, I think, of publicising the growing problem of fraud in telco, which probably hasn't been something that many people have been talking about of late, or certainly until recently. Would you just talk us a little bit more about what the problem is and what you're doing to combat it?
And I think it's fairly self-evident, you know, the scale of fraud is growing with the pace of change with technology. So the number of customers who are being impacted by fraud and the cost that has in terms of internal impact from P&L losses, but also from our customer trust perspective. So our customers actually finding that they are not only impacted from the loss of a handset, but what that actually means in terms of the full ecosystem of fraud, which is the handset through to potentially everything on the handset, the link through to their banking apps and all of the data that sits on that. So the loss impact for our customers is significant. And we've been focused on that over the course of, you know, the last couple of years and how we can transform that. And I probably narrow it down to a few different things, probably 3 points. The first one is what we've been looking at is AI in disrupting our technology. So you may have seen the Daisy initiative that we developed as a company, and that is the use of a kind of an interception with fraudsters. So we kind of loaded a what we call Daisy, who is a persona. We loaded a number of telephone numbers so that AI could pick up, and the fraudsters would interact with Daisy, thinking that they were interacting with a customer. So they would, it essentially kind of diverted from having real customer conversations and had a conversation with Daisy for kind of 45, 50 minutes, where this old lady was having a conversation about cookery, her past husband, things she was doing in the cricket club. So it just meant that we were just kind of causing some disruption to fraudsters and making their lives more difficult. We're also looking at the use of models in the telephony and SMS space. So we've got adaptive AI that we use across both of those. And in the SMS space, what we're doing is identifying from the content of the SMS message whether or not we think that that might be suspect. And we're blocking those SMS from reaching the customer. And over the course of the last year, we've blocked over 1 billion SMS that would have reached our customers. We've also got that linked into telephone, and what we do there is we flag that to the customer rather than blocking the actual telephone number coming through to the customer, so that they can make an informed decision about whether or not they want to answer that call. The risk there is obviously if we block that telephone call that there might be some calls that come through that were required for the customer. So we've blocked, I think it's about 60 million calls per month since we've implemented Hire. And customers then, when they get the flag to identify that it's a scam or a spam, they are 50% less likely to answer it. And if they do answer it, they take about 80% less time on the call. So it's implementing a really good informed decision for our customers to be able to make a choice around what they do with the interactions. And then in the background, we've got a number of machine learning models that are running across the full transaction with the customer in terms of the decision making. So it uses kind of behavioural information, what we see through that journey, device biometrics, etc., to make an informed decision around whether or not we think there is a suspect, say, account takeover through that journey. And it allows us then to kind of make decision points through that interaction, so that customers are less likely to be impacted by an account takeover, which is one of the biggest types of fraud that we have in telco.
Yeah, and it's not just people taking chance that this can be. It's organised, isn't it? It's a growing industry.
Yeah, and I think this is it. I mean, if you spoke to my dad, he'd think it's someone up in their attic, kind of hacking into a device. What it actually is a global industry. And I think the scale of it is like the GDP of a small country. So it is an enormous and organised ecosystem of fraud. And you know, this is why at the moment, you know, historically we've come at it from individual silos. So looking at it from a telco perspective, looking at it from a technology perspective, looking at it from a banking perspective. What we're now starting to do is work across industry and intra-industry, so that we can share signals that come through from technology, so device information, behavior information. We can pick up the telephony information, so SIM activity, network activity, and then we can use things from the banking side, so accounts that have been set up, money movements, pull all of that information together to give us an overall customer risk indicator, and it allows us to make much more informed decisions about what we do with those customers, and allows us to treat fraud as an ecosystem, which is what it essentially is, rather than kind of managing that in silos.
Yeah. So clearly fraud, a big problem, and you're doing lots to tackle it, but that's just one part of your role. You've also got credit risk and collections. Now, it could be said that you look after journeys that customers perhaps might not want to be going down. You know, you don't always pass credit checks, and you know, some customers unfortunately end up in collections when they can't pay. But I know, you know, there's lots of initiatives to try and improve that. Could you just talk us through some of your focus on that area as well, please?
Yeah, and I'm really passionate about the areas that I sit in, you'd be pleased to know. But what I've found in pretty much every industry and every company that I've worked for is that the technology investment tends to happen at the front end and where there's sales opportunities, right? So the kind of exciting stuff happens at the front end. But actually, I've been doing some work with our customer insights team to demonstrate, and the data is there to evidence it, that customers who are going through collections, fraud, credit risk declines, they're in a really emotive state, and getting it wrong or right during that emotive state can really amplify the reaction that comes off the back end of it. So if you get it right, you really kind of impact that remediation, the rehabilitation, and the period of time that customer stays with you post the interaction. If you get it wrong, then the speed to churn and drop off is very quick. So there's a huge customer kind of sentiment impact that's there before you even think about things like the additional revenue and the reduction of churn that comes off the back end. And so investing in that space is really critical, and doing it at the same pace as you're doing it across the full life cycle. Otherwise, customers will have a clunky journey where they'll have a really smooth and kind of adaptive kind of operation at the front end when they service and sales. But they come to a more difficult journey, and their kind of experience drops off a cliff. So what you really need to do is have that same kind of experience across those journeys, and in particular where they're finding difficulties. And the two pieces that we're looking at the moment, I think that are quite exciting. One of them is around personalization, and then the other is around customer education. So on personalization, what we're looking at is, in collections, as an example, thinking about the information that we can have on the customer ahead of them getting into collections. So looking at their external indicators in financial health, internal payment behaviors, looking at the kind of channel of preference, the timing that they like to be contacted, the way they like to be contacted, and then pulling together a proactive offer to that customer ahead of them falling into collections. So we save them before we even have to have them fall into collections, impact our bad debt, impact the OPEX number, and then the rehabilitation means that we've got a revenue at the back end of it. So there's a really great opportunity for managing that personalization. And then with customer education, it's the bit that I'm quite passionate about, that we don't do a good enough job of supporting our customers with information around how they do the, how they manage when they have a fall into collections, how they manage when there's been a fraud against the account. What do they do in those circumstances? What does that mean? What's the impact to them in their account? So what we're looking at doing is kind of personalizing some education pieces where we kind of proactively go out to the customer to let them know where we think they've been potentially suspect of fraud. We give them reactive training to help educate them, and it kind of puts the power back into the customer's hands to be able to kind of make more informed decisions and help their future behavior as well.
Fabulous. And you touched a bit on data there. I mean, having worked with you, I appreciate just the volumes of data that you've got to run your function. How ambitious can you be with transforming what you're doing through data analytics, AI, etc.?
So I think the only inhibitor is ourselves. Actually, I would say that our lack of ability to think about where we could go with this is what's inhibiting. So that there is infinite possibilities, I think, for what we can do in this space, and in particular keeping ahead of fraudsters, because fraudsters will be doing this themselves. So they will be hyper-personalizing messages. You'll all have got kind of scam things that come through. They'll be looking at kind of ID synthetics, etc. So we need to make sure that we stay ahead of the fraudsters in that space. So there's huge possibilities, but we have to be proactive in that space. But also across all customer journeys and the way we leverage that data. I mean, you and I have talked about the Deloitte blueprint for telco, and where you can kind of look through those journeys and understand through that network where there is potential opportunities to utilize AI. And I think when you start kind of exploring it and you get your people in your team to kind of open their mind a little bit more around the way that they could utilize that data, that's when you actually start to see some meaningful change. So I think it's just, really kind of refreshing to be able to sit and go through those models, consider what the opportunities are, and then just kind of go for it. So the only inhibitor potentially is cost, but we'll see where we get to with that in investment. Yeah.
And do you think that's the same for telco kind of writ large? We're obviously talking about your function, but the opportunity across telcos.
And I think we're definitely considering that. So it is, I mean, the obvious opportunities in AI are going to be in network and service, right? That's where the material impact will be in terms of the cost reduction and the customer service experience. But, you know, at VMO2, we're looking at it across the full life cycle. So from finance, general counsel, all the way through into fraud, credit risk and collections. So it is a full life cycle opportunity for us.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I think we're time up, aren't we? Thank you so much for joining us, Penny, and thank you everyone for joining us as well.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I am thrilled to be joined by LaShonda Anderson-Williams. She is the Chief Commercial and Customer Officer for Salesforce. So let's just dive in, LaShonda. We're going to talk about the future of client relationship management. And so in today's world, what does a mobile-first opportunity present for us? And why is that so important?
I think a mobile first opportunity has a couple of different flavors I would share with you. One, I think it's relationship development needs to be a part of that journey, because when you think about relationships, that is what really matters in this industry. There's so many options that customers have. And I think when we think about the cycle that these organizations are going through, having a digital experience is sort of table stakes. It's required. It helps you understand who your contacts are. It helps you do better processing. But nothing prepares you to not be able to have the relationships. And relationships with digital, in my opinion, it scales trust. And trust is what breeds loyalty and long-term commitment from customers. So I think the relationship management piece is important, but it's also the development of making sure that the digital component of those processes are instrumented in how organizations are delivering services and value to their customers.
I love that. Scaling trust.
Scaling trust. That's right. So I'm going to come to you with a question. So if we want to think about scaling trust, the idea that technology has a role in this, I want to hear your perspective on how you see this happening with technology in totality.
Yeah. Well, first of all, at Deloitte, obviously, trust is the currency that we have with our clients, LaShonda, and you can't break that trust, right? And we've got governing principles around driving integrity through all of our processes. The other thing that I think is so incredibly important is putting the human first as it relates to building those relationships. And so when you think about the technology that you need to scale, it's really about, thinking about the mundane tasks and how do you build that into a technology and a process as you had identified. Yeah. But then how do you make sure that you're putting the human first and that really everything else falls to the bottom and the technology and the agents handle that?
Absolutely. I think we're going to talk more about this later, but I do think in everything we do around anything agentified, the human in the loop, the human at the helm. We were talking just a minute about our kids, but when we think about the future and reskilling, we cannot forget the fact that humans will always play a role in building this innovation, specifically AI technology together. It's going to have a critical role, and critical skills will still be needed. And so I love the fact that that's a part of the Deloitte value system, but also how you think about educating your customers on the technology roadmap and journey.
That's right. Look, you've got to be able to co-create with them. And so again, if you can take some of those mundane tasks off of a daily job so that they can be out in front and building that trust, that's what it's all about.
Fantastic.
Okay, so if we know that data is pervasive, right? And there's a tremendous amount of data out there. But what are you seeing as the opportunity to harness that data for good? And in fact, do you see anything getting in the way?
I see a lot getting in the way. And one of the things not getting in the way is data for what it is. This industry has an incredible amount of data. On both ends, B2C, B2B. And I don't think the gap is necessarily in data. I think what we're seeing is there's a gap in insights, how organizations are actually taking this information, applying it to personalization, applying it to processes, applying it to improving how consumers and business organizations adapt to this transformation is really where I think the opportunity is. And I think those who can do it best take the gaps of the insights being sort of at the forefront. That's when you can begin to build scale in an industry that moves at such a rapid pace. You're able to transform your business with data, moving the insights, and do it 100 times over, that's where skill comes from. That's where innovation comes from, but that's where results come from in this industry. So I think the opportunity continues to be is maximizing, harmonizing your data, but doing the way that you can actually use that to be better decision makers. And I think agentic AI will help us accelerate those opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
So I'm going to come to you. So Deloitte has more than a use case. You're actually a Salesforce customer, and we've been together on this journey for a long time. But one of the things that I think that's been really impressive is the relationship 360. And you built this into an app. So tell us a little bit about why this is a real game changer for you and how it's harnessing the power at the organization.
Yeah, so, we have been a partner, obviously, for a long time. We have CRM. But the reality was that our CRM tools were all built at the aggregate account level. And we saw a need to have a much more human, much more relationship at the individual level. And we needed to track the data in a way that allowed us to build relationships over a career arc. And the only way to do that is to collect that data and, again, harness it for good and create those kinds of insights. And so I'm really excited about what R360 has allowed us to do, which is aggregate an extraordinary amount of data, whether it's external data, whether it's knowledge of understanding what their buying patterns are, what their likes are, whether or not they've been at Deloitte events before or have purchased from Deloitte before. And all of that is harnessed in a very easy mobile app forward approach. So I liken it to the hallway test, right? It used to take hours for me to go and prepare to have a meeting with a client executive. Now it's minutes because all of that is aggregated in one easy fell swoop that allows me to, get prepared in a hallway, as an example.
I love that. We were talking earlier and you educated me. There's almost 500,000 people in this organization. So your ability to get information across such a broad and large organization, global organization, to be able to prepare you for those meetings is really impressive. And customers and clients expect that. So the fact that you have the capability using the information at each sector of those engagements and being able to harmonize and create insights to have those conversations really impressive. But I don't think you're done yet.
Okay.
So take us from mobile CRM to agentic CRM, and how do you see agentic solutions reducing friction and really opening up efficiency without replacing the leader or the people? And we were just talking about reskilling. What does that look like in the future?
Yeah, so I think about this as reducing the swivel chairs, right? And again, creating a relationship agent, an opportunity agent to do the mundane tasks. Get rid of the, clutter, if you will, in one's daily activities. How often did I want to enter 32 fields in CRM to capture all of the data that we were looking to harness, but really do that in a much more efficient way so that, again, I can be out in front with my client, co-creating, adding value, having the right level of discussions and listening. And so the combination of these two agents has been just remarkable. Our folks are thrilled that they can be, again, out in front with clients versus behind the computer screen or on your mobile phone, entering in that raw data. But it is important to have that data at your fingertips because as you're handing off from team to team, again, a client wants you understanding what is most valuable to them. And time is such a precious currency as well in today's age. And so this really allows for an ability for one to up-level themselves, if you will, and have that agent working for them, that digital assistant helping them get their daily tasks done.
Wonderful. I love that. I just want to maybe also reflect on the fact that as you think about bringing this innovation into the fingertips of leaders, yes, being able to provide your clients insights is really important, but I also think one of the things we're all learning is businesses are having to deal with more complex challenges. And so your ability to not just remove the mundane challenges and day-to-day tasks of your team leaders, but helping them, arm them for the real opportunities to have more detailed, thoughtful conversations with your clients to really help them think about what is reimagining
the future of AI in this particular industry, I think, is much more powerful than just regurgitating the information you can find publicly. How do you change those conversations into meaningful, thoughtful discussions that lead to helping your clients reimagine their business for the future? So really, really powerful.
That's right. That's right. And again, with recognition that previous to this technology, this was all sitting in Excel spreadsheets. It might be on your iPhone. It might be in your head.
Yes.
And that wasn't a way for us to scale that engagement and build that trust in a way that was important to our clients.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Appreciate the collaboration.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to bring it home. I've got one more question. So Salesforce sees agents as a real powerful next step in helping companies meet everybody where they are, right? Depending on where they are on the journey. And so how do you think about agentic solutions in the future, and where is the direction that Salesforce plans to take us?
Well, I'll start first and foremost. Our core value is AI and humans working together. So AI, you said it a few minutes ago, is the assistant. It's empowering our humans to do the really thoughtful work, the work that matters, the work that really helps us engage with our clients to deliver solutions. The journey there is very dynamic, I'll say, because we talked about data earlier, and a lot of our customers have structured data, unstructured data in different systems from middle office, front office, and back office. And so our vision is helping our customers really unify or harmonize their data first and foremost, and then being able to take that data and move it into insights and finding ways that that assistant can create, I call table stakes, or simple value propositions out of the box that our customers can benefit from. In this industry, it's simple things like billing inquiry in the telco space. And so we see an opportunity where we're helping our customers think about what the world can be reimagined in the future, but how do they actually take their data and shift to this new model? And then lastly, it really is, how do we help our customers, specifically in the communications industry, think about B2C? What does that consumer experience look like going forward? How do you engage with them? And what I mean by engagement, it's hyper-personalization. Those are non-negotiables because switching costs in the consumer space is so easy. So how do you allow these agents to do some of the work that creates frictionless experiences while enabling your employees to do more cross-sell and upsell? On the B2B space is, how do you actually create more products and services for in your portfolio to be able to provide those services to your business customers? And so we see humans continue to play a major role using our agents to empower them to do the work that matters, but also helping our customers really get their data. And this industry has, got a ton of data, as we said, but get their data in a way that they can begin to use it for value propositions for their customers. So we're really, really excited. When we do this right, we're doing it with our customers. We're being empowered with agents, but we're personalizing the things that really matter.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, LaShonda, for joining me today. I think we've got an opportunity to really be human-led and AI-powered. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm joined by Sylvia Hooks from HPE, and we're going to have a conversation about enterprise agentic capabilities and innovation in, as a whole. Before we start, it would be great to get introduced. Sylvia, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm the head of product and solutions marketing at HPE. So we've been doing a lot of work on how to translate the value of AI into the enterprise terms, right? Obviously huge at the show here. It's huge in general, but it needs some investment in understanding what to do with it.
Fantastic. A little bit about myself. I lead Zora AI business for Deloitte. It's our AI agentic product platform business. And it's a venture we started 2.5 years ago. And prior to that, I did a lot of transformational work for a lot of large organizations in finance, supply chain, and human capital areas. So, Sylvia, innovation and HP Enterprise, they're synonymous. They go hand in hand. If I go back all the way to the garage days, that's where truly innovation happened. How is HP is dealing with AI, and what are your organization ideas and thinking behind it in terms of how to go to market, the new things to offer to enterprises, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so if you rewind to when ChatGPT came out in 2022, within 6 months, we all knew what a large language model was, right? And at the time, I remember talking to customers and they were struggling with, okay, what do I need to do? What are my potential use cases? So then, a year or two later, everybody's doing pilots, right? And so what they're finding is that, okay, it turns out it's not as easy as we hoped. And there 80 to 90% of pilots actually fail to show any value. In fact, there's an MIT study that says 95% of pilots failed to materialize in any value. And one of the things they found fascinating in that MIT study is that projects that were co-developed with a trusted partner are twice as likely to succeed as those that you build in-house, right? And the reason is because people don't have the AI skills and they don't have the good data ready to go. So as HPE has listened to our customers, it became clear to us we have to do that work for them. And we developed the AI factories, and the turnkey AI factory for enterprise is called Private Cloud AI. And basically what we did is we took all the pieces that a customer would need to make an AI project successful and pre-integrated that into one system. So we have the compute, the acceleration, the NVIDIA AI enterprise software. We have our own software, control plane, management, everything. Because putting that all together makes it twice as likely to succeed, which is why we're here talking with you, because that is one piece of it. But the other piece is what we hear our customers struggle with is, where do you get ROI? Mm-hmm. And you guys have figured that out, right? Which is what brings us to the Zora side.
Absolutely.
And so we put those two things together to make it successful for our enterprise customers. Talk to me about the Zora business.
Sure. Like you, about 2.5, 3 years ago, we felt like enterprises actually need more than just amazing people with amazing knowledge about where AI is heading, how to think about AI, how to strategize about AI. And, you've heard this from many organizations. The triangle of success for AI is compute, data, and basically the power, energy. So put the energy aside. We decided to actually partner with our business alliance partners like yourself to think about how do you actually take the AI, kind of innovation and ideas and capabilities and outcomes to a whole new level. How you thought about all AI compute in a box with PCAI, we felt like there's intelligence needed to think about how to solve business problems. There's data that needs to be processed. And if you take those two things, which we have a lot of it, and partner with someone like you and others, then we can actually take your idea of all encompassing in one idea to the enterprise. And we are seeing actually pretty good results with our involvement with our customers and clients. And we started with finance, and we had a reason behind it because it's easier to AIify finance. Everyone looks for cost optimization, optimization of the workforce, productivity improvements. How about top line improvements? And those are all the possibilities that if you center it around finance, you can prove it, you can see if it works, and then take it to the next level. And in fact, our first partnership client was your visionary CFO, Marie Myers, who thought about, I want to transform my finance organization to the next generation of what we can do. And we brought Zora to you. Can you tell us, as a user of Zora, as someone who's been involved, how did you, come about it and everything that went with it?
Absolutely. And what I love about that, by the way, is it hits the same thing that we're both seeing in our customer base, which is the use case that can actually deliver a return on investment, pre-packaged and pre-developed with a trusted partner, right? That's exactly what the MIT study says. So Marie wanted to both reduce costs, but also transform.
Yep.
And AI was the ticket for that in her mind, right? So you don't want to just cut costs. You want to be able to do new things. So by working with Deloitte on a Zora project, everybody has to name their project. So our project is named Alfred, which is Batman's butler, as you all know. So one solution for everything. So she wanted to take a specific problem, which was in order to run weekly meetings about the state of the business, she had to do hundreds of staff hours of work to get those reports together. And then it was always backward looking. It wasn't real time. It was always delayed data. It also took a huge amount of time to close the books at the end of the quarter. So with that specific problem, she turned to Zora, and we implemented it on our own private cloud AI solution. So what they've been able to do is, because it's agentic AI, it's able to do a lot of integration that humans don't have to do anymore.
Yeah.
So her team, instead of doing that work, can focus on what is this data telling me, right? They can do the analysis. They can do what if scenarios that they couldn't do before. So in addition to reducing the time it takes to put together the reports by 40%, it's also reduced costs by more than 25%. So that's very incredible. Clear ROI. Yeah. And I think the harder thing to measure is, what does that now do for the business to be able to use real-time data and to model into the future? That is kind of priceless to me.
That's fantastic. Actually, two things you mentioned that is what I recommend to people is that you have implemented. Number one is you took a small use case with a huge ROI from efficiency, productivity, and otherwise, and you said, I want to validate that AI actually works, prove it to the organization, build that credibility and trust with the organization. Now she's expanding. I know she's expanding. Second thing is, agentic AI is there to enable digital workforce. And digital workforce is Alfred. And you actually naming it, it's phenomenal. I've heard from some HP executives that in meetings they say, have you checked with Alfred? Have you asked Alfred, which is an actual arrival of digital workforce for the enterprise, which is fantastic. So just to wrap it up, I would welcome how you think this agentic AI and the world of AI is evolving, or where it's heading from your organization's vantage point.
Well, first of all, I think one of the pieces that's important about agentic AI in general is you want to make sure it's very secure. And so one of the things that our technology allows you to do is to keep all your data on site if you wish to do that, right? So the private cloud. And I think that's going to become more and more important in certain sectors like finance and defense. A lot of the European Union has legislation around data sovereignty, for example. I think that's going to continue to grow. So I think that's going to be huge as people look at agent. You know, if you have agents working for you, you want to make sure they're secure. And then we're looking at agentic AI to solve IT problems, right? You're doing it to solve finance problems and many more things we were talking about. But we're looking at evolving our GreenLake Intelligence, our Cloud Ops suite, to take more autonomous action. Enterprises need that autonomous action in order to really get the return on investment.
Fantastic. I also think this wave of adoption is going to get better and better. It's going to improve and expand across various parts of the enterprise. I think that's in the next 18 months, we're going to see a lot of that. There's a lot of conversations about physical AI.
Yeah.
And I think the combination of agentic AI and physical AI is going to dominate a lot of dialogues and ideas and strategies for a lot of organizations.
You talk to customers all the time. What industries do you see most likely to be the first adopters?
Yeah, obviously tech industry is the one that is primed to go forward with more progressive thinking around innovation. But in general, I think a lot of industries are thinking about the convergence of different parts of different industries coming together and actually evolving their industries or transforming their industries to what is next. Think about, like consumer industry, like e-commerce and consumer cannot be, separated. But we do believe there's a, fast forward on the tech manufacturers, tech companies, followed with a lot of energy industry organizations and companies coming after agentic AI, because we said energy, data, and compute go together. So I think that's what's starting.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, Sylvia, thank you so much for being here. I hope this was a great session for everyone listening and seeing us on YouTube Live, by the way. If you need more information about HPE, please visit their website. And for Zoro AI, see zoroai.deloitte.com. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I have here today Shishir from HPE Networking to kind of go talk about advanced connectivity, enabling the future of networking. Quick introduction for myself, and then I'll kick it over to Shishir. So my name is Richard Johnson. I lead enterprise networks at Deloitte, and you lead a lot of the work that we'll be talking about for the next couple of minutes.
I'm Shishir Singh, and I'm Senior Vice President and General Manager for Network Products and Advanced Technology. And I have been with Juniper and Juniper HP Networking for a few years, almost 3 years. So, yeah. So, Richard, I'm going to start asking you a question. Like, tell me, what do you think about the whole telco and, AI is everywhere, and how do you think the telco providers are actually getting up to, getting ready for all of these?
Yeah. So, I feel like telcos kind of caught a little bit off guard since the advanced needs, right? So their data demands are doubling, if not tripling. 5G is no longer a future state, for clients, right? It really is like now, and we want more of it. And all of this has to, align with the telcos being able to provide the necessary backbone for the network, which, they are trying to keep up with the pace, and it's very difficult for them. So it's a learning curve. At the same time, this is what they wanted. And at the same breath, the rapid pace it came with AI now on every single mobile device, it's really pushing them to the limits, I feel. And so, they're having to catch up, at the same time provide the service. And then, oh, by the way, there's still the existing customer base that's just basic needs. So, I don't know how you feel about that.
No, yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of things happening here, right? With the AI, with the digital transformation, and a lot of AI ops automations and all kind of stuff. So I think the next big thing is they have to figure out how do we make sure that the networking is just not up, but it's also ready for the business growth.
Yeah.
And how do we make sure the AI ops, how do we make sure that predictive analytics and the security framework is all integrated into the infrastructure, so that the operators can, manage the network with ease, and they are ready for future, basically.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff which comes to my mind, like, what do you think about the security, the resiliency, and all kind of stuff in the telco in this modern era?
Yeah, I feel like, with AI now, hacks are more, they're better, right? They're more advanced, and I feel like those are now trying to counteract with their own AI to kind of mitigate their the resiliency around getting hacked. And so the security aspect is a whole different ballgame than what it was 6 months, even a year ago, right? So and then the business impact of what that's gonna when if there is a breach, right? It's no longer a small subset of data, right? It's actually integration systems and things along those lines that are far more serious now than it was, again, 6 months, a year ago.
Right.
I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I'll just tell you about the HP networking and how we are designing our products to make sure that we are ready for future of networking. And, with the Juniper coming in, there are 3 areas of focus for us. The first area is the silicon, system, and software. Those are the 3 big pillars is what we are rotating upon. The silicon, as you can imagine, Juniper is known for building the ASIC or the custom ASIC. Very recently, we released our PTX series, which is 12K, and it is based on 800 gig, port density, ready for the 1.6 terabits of platform. But the important part is the operating system and the application of Junos and Evo is what we call that in HPE term, is basically integrates a lot of the modern AI ops technique, the security framework, and the predictive analytics, based on some of the telemetry we are collecting, some of the routing intelligence we are collecting, so that it's a platform-centric approach, and everything the intelligent is built into the infrastructure itself, so that we can have the predictive action or the closed loop remediation as soon as possible. But that's the approach is what we are taking it from the HPE networking point of.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. And to what you just mentioned, the predictive analytics, right? Now we're more proactive than reactive, right? I think that's what companies are always aspiring to do. But now with, more advanced AI technologies like what Juniper's had for years.
Right.
Juniper was always the gold standard for anything AI networking. And now leveraging like compute on the edge from the HPE side of the house, I think it's a perfect marriage for, for companies to start, embracing and, and how to integrate into their, that helps them become more efficient from an operational perspective too, regardless of the size of the organization.
Yeah. I mean, one of the concepts we are driving, is self-driving networks.
Yeah.
And self-driving networks, the concept starts with collecting the right amount of data, building the right model. With the agentic AI approach, I think a lot of those stuff, whatever we are building from analytics point of view, we can make it much more actionable.
Yep.
And a lot of the model contextual protocol also enables us to be very domain specific so that we can start using those of the techniques and help our network, guys to, do with less number of people, basically.
Sure. And that's always the biggest challenge.
That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, certainly for me, one of the industries I do a lot of work in is higher education, and they were always being asked to do more with less.
Right.
And the impact that like high performance computing, AI specifically on these campuses, has hit them, quickly.
Right.
Whereas they didn't have a longer runway to advance this. Right. Researchers are trying to get more AI into their back supporting their research, and their networks are just not ready for it.
Agreed. I mean, the way the software needs to be developed for the networking infrastructure has to be, it's not just about the connectivity. It's not about just connecting one data center to another data center, but it's all about building the platform-centric approach, right? Because, the software basically enables you to do that kind of stuff. And I think it's really important that you are collecting a lot of those telemetry so that, if there are any components which is going to fail, you have much more predictive analytics on that one, and you can be prepared, making sure that you have the right action in place and all. Another interesting part which we are driving is making sure that how the industry is shaping for the next future of I would say liquid cooling.
Oh yeah,
right. I mean, one of the things which is about to get released is the latest QFX 5250 series of platform, which has the top-notch liquid cooling, 100% liquid cooling. It has also a very intelligent optics connection for the port density and all that thing. So there's a lot of innovation coming in this industry, and making sure that we are ready for the future of the AI and how people are going to use the infrastructure.
Right. And it's amazing the data center space required now. Right. That was thought to be a thing of the past, and now data centers are very cool again. And in some cases,
absolutely,
there's actually states that have limited number of data centers, if at all, they're going to be allowed to be built there, right? And so how can our grid handle, all of the data center impacts that's going to happen? So
absolutely. And one of the things we also focus on making sure the cybersecurity part of is all, it's all connected, because I do believe that industry is ready to have a network and security convergence.
Yeah.
I think those two needs to converge. It's not like a bolt on, right? You think about network infrastructure and then you're thinking about security on top of it.
Right.
I think it's important that security is thought much more integrated as part of the infrastructure itself, right?
100%.
Right.
And we engage that very early on as a fundamental with our, with our, any network transformation opportunities or anything in general. The cyber component of that is so critical.
Yeah.
Again, you're only as weak as you're as strong as your weakest point. And for us, sometimes the end user side or something along those lines, right? I mean, I think it's always how do we get ahead of it? How do we try to mitigate it, segment it, or whatever we can, right, to the least amount of impact? And I was going back to higher education with researchers.
Right.
Researchers believe in two fundamental things, right? They want the wild, wild west as far as being able to do anything they want, communicate with anyone they want. And oh, by the way, the second rule is I need to protect my intellectual property.
Yeah.
So how do you measure that? And as a CISO for a higher education institution, how do you attract researchers?
Yeah.
How to tell them, like, I'm going to protect you, but I'm going to give you your openness.
Exactly.
And I know several of them, they lose sleep at night.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not about closing the system, it's opening, but at the same time, providing the right framework so that people can use it. Another important aspect, Richard, I feel is, becoming a board level conversation is, bits per cost, right? Like, how do I make sure I have the right sustainability, right? I'm using the right power consumptions in a very, very efficient way. So, that is where I believe that we need to build a system where, we need to think about a lot of these things as well, because it's not about just the silicon and the software, but also about the system, because that's where rubber meets the road, right? I mean, that's what you're going to put in the infrastructure. So there is a lot more to think about this space. But one question I have is that I'm from HP Networking. We build the product, very innovative product. You are from Deloitte. How do we partner together to bring the best for our customers?
I think you mentioned it earlier with Juniper's history of AI leading software, right? So you help predictive analytics about the network. HPE's compute on the edge stack, all right, which definitely differentiates themselves from many others. And then Deloitte's overall implementation and operability, I think is like the holy trinity for that kind of work. And we do work collaboratively very well together on things, and I continue to do so. And again, as it progresses, and AI, the AI software from the Juniper side becomes more integrated into our old school Aruba clients. Who are actively anticipating like those days, ahead. I think that's just where we get to, in a not too distant future.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is the best of the both worlds coming together, right? That Deloitte bringing the operational excellence, and HP Networking bringing a lot of the innovation of the new product area. We can bring together these two aspects, working with customers to make sure that we are working on their problem, and how do we bring these two things together to solve that problem, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I think, that's going to be very, very key, right?
Yep. I guess we'll end early.
All right. We end here? All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm Rob Casagrande, a principal in Deloitte's Telecommunications practice. Thank you for joining us today, both in person as well as to our friends who are streaming online. Today's discussion, we're going to focus on 5G manufacturing. And I'm joined by my good friend, Daniel Lawson from Verizon.
Yep.
You want to give a quick introduction?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me, Rob, and the Deloitte team. Daniel Lawson, I run our global